Hey guys, and welcome back to the Magic of Wonderberg, where we are today going to be making Keen's fireballs. Now there is a number of steps involved, and I'm going to be breaking it up just so that you guys can understand the basic concepts. If you guys are familiar with Minecraft and how Minecraft works and the advanced way of summoning things, this might not be the exact video for you. If however you're a complete novice and you're wondering how some of these concepts works, please do continue watching. Right, now the first thing we need to discuss is entities. Now entities is anything that has some kind of logic or some kind of artificial intelligence or AI connected to it. For example, Barnaby over here, he is a prime example of an entity. As I'm moving around, you'll see he's following me with his eyes. He has movement. I can't actually make him stand up because it's actually Stampy's dog. So that he is an entity. I am an entity as well. I'm a player entity. This item or this block, when I put the block down, it's not an entity. It is just a normal block because it's a block. If I were to drop the item, it then becomes an entity because it has movement. There's various logic running against it. For example, if I go closer to it, I'll pick it up. So that then becomes an entity. Mobs, googlies, spiders, villagers, cats, ocelots, all of those things, they are all entities. Okay, now why is that important? Because a fireball is an entity, and when you have an entity, you can do a lot of things with that entity. So when I throw the fireball or the snowball, okay, it is a flying entity that's flying through the air in the direction that I am looking. And now that is very, very important because we're wanting this fireball to be flying in the direction that we are looking. Okay, so this is important. Snowball is an entity. The next entity I want to talk about is a fireball. Now a fireball has no real direction. You can't throw it. You can't really do anything with it. It requires you a interaction with it to actually make it fire. So if I punch it, you'll see it'll then do stuff. It'll fly in a direction that I am punching it in. Okay, so we are now going to combine the two. So we're going to combine the functionality of the snowball that flies in the direction that we are throwing it in. Okay, we're going to combine that with the power and the awesome looking fireball and the damage that a fireball causes. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. So first off, let's have a look at how to actually summon a fireball into the world. Okay, so here is the command for it. Summon a fireball. Now you'll see these little squiggly lines. Now that is actually the coordinates of where you want the fireball to be summoned. So it's the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, and the Z coordinate. Now if we hit F3, okay, in the top left hand corner you will see you've got the X, Y, and Z. Now as I am moving around, you can see that this is changing. So this is what's called an absolute coordinate. So that's exactly where I am in the world. If I were to teleport myself or were to summon the item at those coordinates, it'll summon it there at that particular spot. But that is not what we want, because we want that whenever I throw a snowball, we want to summon that fireball where that snowball is. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to use these relative coordinates, which is these little squiggly lines, which is called a tilde. Okay, so for me to summon the fireball right above this block, okay, I'm saying summon fireball exactly where it is in the X coordinate, one up from the Z coordinate, and exactly where it is in the Y coordinate. Okay, so from this block, because this block is summoning the fireball, and that's important to note. This block is summoning the fireball. This relative coordinates is based on this block. So if I were to say fine, summon it, one in the X direction, you'll see it summoned it to the left of it. Okay, right. So this is very, very important. Now the next bit is also incredibly important. We want to summon this fireball with a direction. So even though we are setting the direction to be zero, Minecraft just wants you to add that. If I were to take that away, okay, so if I were to take away the direction, you will see that the fireball will briefly flicker into existence and then disappear. You see. So it requires us to have this direction added to it. Now you'll see when we do the direction, you'll see that we've got a little funny little squiggly brackets on the one side and little squiggly brackets on the outside. Now it's always important that these brackets are enclosed. Now what that means is that one bracket looking to the left, now that is what's called an open bracket, and an open bracket must always have a closed bracket. Once you've done all of the command, you need to close your command, and that's what the bracket looking to the right is doing. It's closing off this whole command. Okay, now the reason we put in brackets is because I've only used direction, but we can summon this fireball with a whole bunch of other stuff. We can increase the range of the explosion. We could maybe make it faster. We can make it go slower. We could do all kinds of other stuff with it, but I'm only interested in the direction. But we still use these brackets to say I'm about to create a bunch of special things for this fireball. Okay. Then I go, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a direction. And then the direction can only has these coordinates in it. So I'm using square brackets. Now the square brackets is just another way of encapsulating the data that is just applicable to this direction over here. Don't worry too much about it. When you start looking at these commands, you will start realizing when to use square brackets and when to use rounded brackets. I would suggest looking up all of these commands yourself and then playing with them. Okay, now once again, Minecraft's got one of those funny little bugs where you have to have a 0.0. You can't just have 0. So even 0.0 means 0. You have to have it. So that's the X 0.0, comma the Y 0.0, comma Z the 0.0. Okay, so that just means that we are going to summon a fireball that has absolutely no direction. Okay, right. So what did okay? Sorry, I didn't save that. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's the fireball. Now you'll see when I'm looking in a particular direction, I'm punching it, it'll go in that direction. Okay, so now that we've got the fireball, okay, we now need to have the actual snowball summon that fireball. Now remember, because it's placed in this block is running this command, and that's why we've got that relative coordinate set up there. Okay, so it's this block. But what we want to do is we want this command to be run by the snowball, because when the snowball runs it, we can summon a fireball directly in the path of the actual snowball, and it will then push the fireball in the direction that we want it to go. Okay, now the way we do that is something called an execute. Okay, so let me just quickly clear that, and it's execute. Okay, at E. Now at E is what we call a entity selector. Now you can do at E, which is going to, now we need to specify an entity, like whether it's Barnaby or whether it's a player or whether it's a snowball or a ghast or a spider or any kind of googly. Okay, that is when we use at E. When we're doing players, we can use at P for at player, we can use at A for at all, at R for random, etc, etc. But for now, we're just going to be looking at E. Now, when we say at E, if I were to run this command, it will actually execute at every single entity on this map, which is not what we want. We want to narrow it down to a specific entity. Okay, so this is where we use the square brackets. Okay, so we're going to use the square brackets. And it's very, very good practice if you open up a bracket to immediately close it and then just go back into it and do your command. That way you won't forget to close it. Okay, and now we're going to say type. Okay, now the type of entity that we want we want to execute this command is a snowball. Okay, so whatever we do now, we're going to execute against that snowball. And then we need to specify where it is going to be executing this particular command. So once again, we're going to be using these little tildes, which means it's going to execute it at the actual snowball. Now, a little fun thing I always do to see if something works is I always execute a say hello. Okay, so what that means is if I put a button on here, okay, and I throw the snowball, right, and while the snowball's in the air, if I press that, you'll see that the snowball is telling me hello. Do you see that on the bottom? Until it disappears and then it no longer tells me hello. So we now know that this execute is actually working. Right, so now we are going to run this fireball command. Okay, so I'm just going to copy what we did here before, and I'm just going to paste it in here. So what's happening now is we're now going to be executing at all snowballs. We are going to be summoning a fireball. Now we want the fireball not to be summoned one above it, but directly in or on top of the actual snowball, like so. Okay, so if I now throw this, let me throw it like that, and I very, very quickly hit, oopsie, I throw it and I very quickly hit it, you'll see there goes the fireball, okay? But you'll see it still requires me to actually hit this button. But that's it, this is your command. Execute at E, type equals snowball, summon fireball, and then just the direction you want to send it in. Now, this command is all great and well, but what we need to do is we need to constantly power it, because you can't stand here going click, 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 click. Okay, for that we need a clock. Now, one of the best clocks, and one of the clocks I use the most, is something called a comparator clock. And to make one, we need a redstone comparator, we need some redstone dust, we need a block, and we need a lever. Okay, so first of all, we put down the block. All right, we put down the comparator, touching this block. We right click on the comparator, right, so that the little light comes on. We then run the redstone wire from the front, around the side, into the side. Okay, we then put the lever on top, and when I flick this lever, you will see that the clock now starts flashing, and that is exactly the same as if I'm click, 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 clicking this button. It's exactly the same, except I don't have to touch it. Okay, next we're going to put down a block, put down another block, and we're going to run your redstone wire over it. Okay, then we're going to take this command we created over here. Okay, and we are just going to add it to the end here. Okay, like so. And that's it. That command will now always run. So when I now throw my snowball, I now have fireballs. How absolutely cool is that? Isn't that cool? Excellent, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. And yeah, if you really do like this, please do subscribe. And I'm going to be doing one of these based on the episode of Wonder Quest as they come out every single week. Guys, thank you very, very much for watching. And as always, I will check you all later.